I'd like to thank Ryan Baker for putting this on Facebook Live for us tonight also. And so that's great. And thank you all for coming and spending some time with us tonight. I appreciate that. Up on the stage with me is Zella Ghosh from AMP Construction, and J.D. Dreyer from Davis Partnership Architects, and Andy Forney from D.A. Davison. He's the money man, so we'll get him started. So we'll get started here. Who's gonna do the slides for me there? Okay, so this is a picture that we had. This is June 26, 1977. This is the ribbon cutting for the current hospital. Do you guys remember any of those folks? I don't know any of those folks. So, what's that? See, I don't think it's Kaor, but okay. Next slide, please. Okay, so any rate, we did some studies a while back, and this was one of the questions from our Facebook Live last Thursday about the economic impact of the hospital. And we've already gone over this before, but the basic economic impact of the hospital is $22,574,000. So we're currently the biggest employer in the county. The school and us, we trade places every once in a while. So that's kind of how that goes. Next slide. This is the existing building. And just to go over a couple quick things here. First off, we got this little sawtooth addition here. And this is the inpatient right now. And one of the biggest things here are these rooms are way too small. By the time you get an IV pump in them and a nurse and maybe a monitor or something, there's no room. And a recliner for loved ones to sit in, and don't try to put more than 2 in there. And then the restrooms are not ADA accessible. And again, the other night we had a question from Facebook Live. Well, why can't we just remodel this, and why is this not up to code? Well, there was no ADA back in 1977, and so that's why they're not up to code. And if they would have squared this off, the remodeling of this area would have been a lot easier. And so right now it'd be super expensive to remodel that. We also have some other issues. Our emergency room is right there. That's the emergency room there. The nurse's station is right here. And the emergency entrance is right here. So it's not very functional. So if you come in by ambulance, you have to come in here. We go up here, and we go down to here. That's 170 feet. The nurse comes from here and over and down, and that's another 130 feet. So having the emergency room right here in the middle of the facility is not real good. The other thing of it is, this is a high traffic area right here. This hallway and this hallway here are real high traffic areas, and so we have a ton of privacy issues right here. And so if I'm walking down from here and I'm walking down this hallway to get my mail, I can tell you who's in the emergency room. I can walk by the scope room here, and I can pretty much tell you somebody's having a scope done, or I can see people coming in and going into the OR room there. So privacy issues there are just not good, and it's just not functional. We have X-ray all over the place. We have X-ray here. We have X-ray here. This is our CT scan, and this is another thing that came to light the other night at the Facebook Live, is that one of our X-ray techs, Kara, was talking about having to take people from the ER, if they need a CT, taking them from the ER all the way back down here, going out through this door and into the CT room. Well, these corners are very tight, and at night, once this door closes, they're locked out of the facility. They have to have a nurse let them back into the facility when they're done with the CT, and that, to me, raises a red flag as far as safety issues for my staff. So anyway, those are just a few little things. The infrastructure's wore out. The plumbing and electrical needs to be replaced. And so let's go to the next slide then. And so we have some key existing areas. Privacy. We have all kinds of privacy issues going up and down that hallway there. If you're going to get the scope room is separate from surgery, so if you're going to go get a scope, we pre-op you in the room. You go all the way down that hallway and take a left, say hi to all your friends in the ER waiting room there, and then you're going down to the scope room. I've had a scope before. That's not very comfortable. Okay. Safety, there's not adequate space and accommodations for patients. We have health, safety, and welfare code requirements are not met. Again, as an example, the emergency room entrance is 170 feet away from the ER, which most emergency room entrances go directly into the ER. So the other area we talked about the other night was the lab. Lab is 970 square foot right now, and I'm an old lab guy. I've been doing lab for a lot of years until I got into this gig, and it's the smallest lab I've ever seen in my life. So there's no room to even move around. And then access. And our entry doors, we have too many entry doors. We want to come up with just one main entry. Access to equipment and access to inside restrooms is bad. And so those are just some of the problems there. Yeah, the patient bathrooms are way too small. So anyway, next slide, please. So anyway, how did we get here? Well, this is actually starting off in January of 16. Actually, we could take this timeline back to about 2007. Okay, and in 2007 they started plans. I was not here then, but they started some plans. Actually, the year before I got here, the board had approved some plans for some remodeling, and that didn't materialize. And so now here in January of 16, the board starts another plan for facility improvement. In April, the board selects Erdman Company from Westminster, Colorado, to just develop a strategic plan. And one of the things the board wanted to do was they wanted to know, is it going to be more cost efficient to build a new hospital, or is it going to be more cost efficient to remodel what we have? Well, this Erdman study shows us that it was going to be more cost efficient by about $3 million to build something new than to try to remodel what we have. And so then in that October, then the board selected AMP Construction of Aurora and Davis Partner Architects, these lady and gentleman over here, as the design build team to develop a new facility. So then in December of 17, the Chase County Commissioners agreed to fund the preliminary plans for the facility. And at that time, we were looking at USDA funding, but the commissioners decided that they'd rather do bond funding because that's what they're used to. And so that's what they decided. And so we started, that's when we called Andy and started that process. In January of 18, the board approved the necessary work to determine the maximum guaranteed price for the project. And then came July, and the first estimate, and I want to emphasize this was an estimate for a new facility, comes in at almost $30 million. Well, our board thought that was too high, and so they requested the commissioners not to put it on the November ballot. In the meantime, we had been given some land by Byron Hoost, who generously gave us some land, but at this price tag, it wasn't going to make it. So then in September, the board begins to look at plans for the addition to the current facility. We had all kinds of meetings, spent a lot of hours in our conference room hashing some stuff out. And so in October of last year, we approved the planning for the current rural health clinic to have an addition. And then so we went through all that planning process. Then in last month, the board approved to present to the county commissioners a request for a special election this May for $20.5 million for the hospital addition. And then on the 12th of March, the commissioners approved that request. So that's kind of where we've been. Now I'm going to give it over. Yeah, you thought we'd been doing a lot, JD. I mean. So now I'm gonna give this over to JD, and he's gonna explain a whole bunch of stuff to you. And save your questions till the end, because we're gonna be taking questions at the end. And